Tim,
Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting us here to Bradford-on-Avon, to your existing offices. You've recently announced half-year results. Do you want to talk us through the figures?
Yes, we were in the city back in April and we were doing the road shows, and it has been a good start to the year, first half year. We've seen our revenues increase by about 9% to £11 million. Last year was about 10.1. And also our profit, if you exclude the share options, has gone by 9% to 2.5 million. So a good start to the year, looking quite positively for the future in terms of the future order book. And the story really is that it's business as usual with the company, waiting for the time when we can actually move on to the next stage of growth.
And with the share option charges, can you tell us a little bit about how they're accounted for and how it affects profits and earnings per share?
That's a good question, and it's something that actually needs to be understood. We follow the IFRS accounting rules and regulations, and any form of share option has to be costed. It is worth saying that it's a non-cash item, but it has to be costed through the profit and loss. And these instruments are quite complicated. They're based on something called the Black-Scholes method, and it's a way of determining the value of the share, and the charge will be taken throughout the period of the vesting period of the shares. So this particular instance, it's going to be around about 3 years. And in this particular period, we took I think £805,000 option cost. Of course, if the staff exercise their options, that is cash coming back into the company, but it's a provision that we are obliged to make, and it's something that we have to declare, which is why when we talk about our profits, we talk about the underlying profit, which is with the option cost taken away, and that's the best way to judge our performance of our company on a year-to-year, half-year-to-half-year basis.
So going forward for the next half year, there'll be another 800,000?
It'll be a decreasing amount, and there'll be, but yes, you're right, it's an amount that falls over the next 3 years. Like I said, it has no material effect in terms of the cash of the company. It is an accounting method that if you are going to generate cash, you have to show the cost of cash, and it's how we have to account for it. And there has been some confusion as to why we took it through the profit and loss. That is a method that is being determined by the IFRS accounting methods. It's just something that we have to appreciate. The thing is, it's been such a good thing for the company to do the share options. We've did this first time round, and everyone who wanted shares exercised their shares. This is the second scheme that we've run into. We've offered it to everyone inside the company in varying degrees, and it's a great method of remunerating and rewarding staff because they feel they're part of the ownership.
Has foreign exchange affected profits and margins? Has that had a nice tailwind effect?
It's fair to say it has, although it is fair to say that we have, and in most cases we do, price in pounds where possible. So quite often the price effect is felt by the reseller who takes the product in pounds and sells in the local currency. And we have actually made moves to increase our pricing. Also at a time when we do have some competitive pressures, it's been nice to have that currency tailwind to help support our business. So much of our material cost is in sterling, but we do have a portion of cost coming in euro, and so we have actually seen an increase on our own material costs. So it is a question of us responding by putting up our pricing than it is basically using the currency to normalise our profits.
So you have put up your prices?
Yes, but to the customer, especially euro customers, they would see no increase in cost.
So what percentage of your sales are exports?
About 98%. In fact, this first half was 96% because we did actually make some sales into the UK. And yes, currency is beneficial to us. Can't deny that. The other thing to remember as well is that most of the R&D, we talk about $100 billion a year being spent on R&D by the car industry. A majority of that is still spent in Japan. So when you look at the pie chart of our half-year results, you'll see that at least 20% of our business is still Japan, 20% is in Europe, and then we've got China, and everything in China is new business. Everything in Japan is recurring business. And what's been quite nice this year is to see the growth in demand in North America. So for the first time, we're starting to see the North American market pick up. It's been quite disappointing. It's taken quite a long time for them to get their R&D moving. It's quite noticeable that a lot of the ADAS related and driverless related R&D by Ford and GM is actually done in Europe by their European affiliates. With Opel now moving to Peugeot, we expect there to be a bit more business coming from those markets in America. And it's also quite notable to see that when Ford announced recently that they wanted to focus on driverless car technology, they're going to spend I think it was $1 billion on development. Almost a month later, they placed their first orders for machines from ABD. So it's encouraging, and it's a trend I hope that continues.
So tell us a little bit about your forward order book.
The products we have, we've broadly split into two areas. We have the track testing, which are the robots and the ADAS targets. And we have the lab testing, which is the large bits of equipment, of which we sell about 2.5 a year. There's always a demand for the large bits of equipment, so we're always building the next machine. The bit that may be more interesting is the sales of the GSTs, the guided soft targets. And at the moment we're receiving orders will take us into, I think, February 2018. So we're pretty much packed out on orders.
And do you see that being sustained?
Yes, I do. I mean, there are other products we're now bringing in to support. So we've got at the moment 2 platforms we've developed. We've got a second platform which should be coming in next year. But the whole market in terms of the advanced driver assistance systems is moving towards the development of autonomous car technology. And so a lot of the technology that's been used for the development of emergency braking systems and active cruise control is the same technology that will go into the next generation of autonomous cars. So I think we're just kind of starting on this market. The early adopters are getting in, the testing houses are getting in, but we're now getting repeat orders from the same customers for more of the same systems. And it's not just the GSTs. Being able to sell the soft targets also allows you to sell more robot systems because the 2 products integrate together very nicely.
And do you think you'll be able to keep up with demand?
It's difficult. We had an opportunity to go around the sites today, and you can see that we've had to expand to about 6 locations away from the main headquarters. It's not just about people, it's also about space, and the new factory coming on stream in September will give us the headway to cope with that additional growth. Yeah, we've built a business that can handle more than we sell today, and that's what we've always done, try to keep ahead of demand. The new factory gives us the opportunity to jump ahead slightly, and we'll manage as we've always managed, which is, we don't want to let customers down, but we are aware that long lead times could actually lead to potential issues in the future.
And of course what everyone's asking is what's happening with the advanced driver simulator.
Yep, that's the project that we entered into last year with Williams Racing. It's going really well. I mean, we're getting to a point where we're looking at commercialization of the product. We've got the demonstrator up the road, which is going through some stages. We're now actively marketing it as a product. We do note that the analyst report from Canters did put 1 simulator in for this year. That's doable. The good news is that we've had so many sales on other products that we're fairly confident about our forecast. The thing about this product is it is incredibly complex, and even though it's an expensive product, it's not the cost that puts the customer off, it's the fact he's going to commit to a technology he's going to have to use for many years. One of the things that we're able to do that perhaps competition can't do is that we can tie in the track testing robots and we can integrate that kind of the data from those track testing robots into simulated form. As customers move towards the more virtual product sign-off, then the use of simulation is going to become more and more important. And so we think the simulator is an ideal opportunity, maybe not for the short term, but the mid-term, long term is going to be a massive part of our business.
So following last year's placing where you raised £6 million, you now have about £15 million on the balance sheet. The new factory is going to take about £5.5 million. How are you going to spend the rest?
I mean, the proposition for going to the market for the money was, for the first time about a year ago, we had absolute certainty of how much money was going to be required to not just develop our products and not just handle our cash flow, but also what we're going to need to get the new factory built. And there was an understanding that what we really needed now was a platform of money to be able to take the company to the next stage of its business cycle. And that involves doing more de facto product development. In the past, we've always tended to develop on the back of a customer request or an order. But the simulator is a good example of a market that we know is coming and an opportunity we need to develop on. And there are other products in the portfolio we're working on now which will, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, deliver the revenues and the growth the company needs to see. So a lot of the money that we're going to be using is to fund that product development, and also as we grow you need the working capital. And for the first time we're starting to look a bit more strategically at the corporate development of the business, whether we need to acquire technology in that area, whether we need to be moving into different areas or different sectors. And finally, as we've stated a number of times, we are looking to expand our distribution and our support out to the regions. So this year we're looking at Germany as an area we need to get technical support in place. We need to support more product support in Asia. We already set something up in Japan and that's been working really well. And to a certain extent, the only way we're going to sell supporting services is actually if we have supporting services in place. There's over 600 robot systems out in the market now, and those are still working on a day-to-day basis, and we need to get those products supported. And through support come the cross-selling of the products. And it's quite obvious that our engineers are very good once we're in with the customer to sell other products and services, and we're continually looking to work with that set of customers to make sure that we've got the next generation of products, but also the local support to back it up.
And when you sell in products to the customer, is there a recurring revenue stream in servicing or parts?
Yeah, there is. Initially, 5 years ago, about 6% of our revenue was recurring revenue. That's from software upgrades and calibration. But actually, in the last 2 years, we've got that up to about 10%. And that is because we've been able to put a bit more support at the front end. I don't really believe it's going to get a huge amount more than that. It is a significant 10%, but at the end of the day, we are companies selling large capital goods. The best way to get repeat business is to sell another system. And we've said time again that companies like Toyota, who probably have about 40 systems from ABD, continue to buy products from us on a regular basis. So long as we update them, repurpose them, introduce new technology like the GSTs and the ADAS targets, then there's always going to be a demand for our products and services.
And going back to the research and development, how long does it take from the initial concept to get it through to a commercialised product?
It does depend on the product. If a product is very close to something we already make, so the guided soft targets weren't a million miles away from the robot technology, and that actually was quite a short period of time. The next generation of large lab equipment, like the simulators, will take a bit more time because they're new, they're novel. If other people were doing it, we wouldn't be doing it, so we're having to invent new things. And so those things could take about 18 months to bring from concept to final sell. I think the thing about it is it's an amalgam of electrical, electronics, mechanical, and then software that brings it all to life. And it is difficult because if it was easy, other people would be doing it. And it's the kind of thing that we like doing because it's a challenge, but also we can see the advantage and the absolute value it brings our customers in terms of giving them the repeatable and accurate data they're looking for and allowing them to shorten the time for development of their own products. And that is worth a lot to a car company.
And in terms of developing ideas, you're obviously working with Williams at the moment. Are there any other collaborations that you're looking to develop, or would you be more likely to acquire?
Probably a combination of both. The answer to the first question is yes, there are other companies we're working with. We're quite good at incubating small companies in terms of bringing their technology forward. We're always very supportive of our supplier base. And we jealously guard that as well. And normally it's working with our suppliers that lets us get the next iteration of a new product, or even to collaborate on a new product that lets us take us into a new area. At the end of the day, ABD make products that test complete cars, so it's a total car system. But we are looking for people that can supply certain components that make our products either better or take us in a new direction. As we get more into this product development cycle, there will be a need to acquire that technology, and we need to be in a position to be able to get that when we need it. The UK is full of very vibrant little organisations that, given the sort of design impetus and maybe the routes to market that we have, could benefit from the application of ABD technology and money.
And was that part of the motivation for the cash raise?
Part of it. I think the major thing really was that we could see a pipeline of new products that we wanted to bring to market, that the money would help us get there quicker. But in the back of our mind, we always knew that there'll be an opportunity one day for the company to get into the sort of development of technology via acquisition, or maybe into moving into new adjacent areas by an acquisition process. But at the moment, it's very early stages. We'll nurture the cash and we'll use the cash correctly. And as and when we think it appropriate, we'll use the cash in different ways.
And what do you think is the payback period for the cash?
Well, certainly you're not going to see any benefit in the first couple of years because, as I said, products take time to develop. I think the key thing really is that by utilising the cash in the way we want to utilise it, we can bring the manufacturing under one roof. That we don't have to utilise all the cash on facilities, that we then have cash available that lets us fund our working capital. It gives us cash that lets us fund our fairly ambitious R&D programme. And it's more about where it will take us to in the next 2, 3, 4 years. We will continue to generate our own cash on top of that, and we'll continue to develop and incubate the new products. So the payback really is a long-term strategic role for us. It's ability to be able to bring in new highly qualified staff, its ability to be able to bring in facilities that allow us to build products. And as I said before, it allows us to go out and be a bit more aggressive on the sales and marketing.
And you've got this new shiny development up the road that you're going to move into in September.
Correct.
And that means that what happens with all of this space here?
Well, it's both fortunate and unfortunate, depending on what you look at it, is that the new factory is not actually big enough. It's been 5 years in the gestation. And we will be retaining this particular building that we're in today, and most likely moving production into here as soon as we move out. The key thing really is to make sure that design is all under one roof. So design, development, mechanical, electrical, software is all under one roof, that the admin and that the management is all under one place. So some of the peripherals that we can run outside will run outside. What we hope to do is, as and when the leases come up on the other buildings we have around the Wiltshire, that they will be able to switch those off and bring them in-house. What we've also done is we've actually taken an option on the land across the way from the new factory. I say option, we've actually purchased the land and there is outline planning, but there is no time obligation on us yet to build something. But what we don't want to do is be in the position we were 5 years ago and finding ourselves having to go out in extremis and find additional space. So the real belief really is that if we can get it right, we should be able to build something across the way when we're ready. That will take all the capacity issues out the equation.
And at the moment, with the new factory and with this space, do you have enough space and capacity?
We do for the next 3 years, if we manage our continued growth in the way that we're doing.
And you've got 6 satellite offices?
Yes, we do.
And are they going to be all shut down?
They'll all come down as the leases come off. I mean, for a lot of the leases are actually quite cheap. We actually paid up front because we got a better deal. We have refurbished them, and it might be quite nice to get some money back on them, but that's not our business. Never since I've been with the company have we had too much space. So I have no doubt we'll be able to find and utilise space as we see it. The idea about bringing things together is more about, it's not about cost savings, it's more about synergies. It's about making sure that the design groups are working together. You probably saw when you walked through the office how tight we are inside of there. We're not going to be a huge amount more open, but there are going to be a lot more people. And the company works by having the energy of the conversations that go on between the workshop, the tool makers, the designers, and to a certain extent that the engineers are taking products out into the field, because they'll come back with the ideas. And that's what I'm trying to get back to this company that can create and develop new ideas. They always say it's about the people, and it absolutely is about the people. And it's about creating a factory and a facility that we're proud of.
So there aren't going to be cost savings as such. In terms of the new factory, will there be extra capacity to create more revenue?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, the day we move in is the day we've tripled our current space, notwithstanding the buildings we'd have to get rid of. You know, I would caution, it's not like there's an untapped wellhead of demand that's just waiting for the new capacity. It's all about headway. If we don't have this new facility, in 2 years' time, we'll be restricted on how far we can grow. There's only so many business units you can take on around the countryside. So this is a strategic decision to create a facility that gives us headway for the next 5 years. And that's what that's about.
So we don't imagine that suddenly you've got 3 times more capacity, so you get 3 times more revenue in the next period.
Not like that, no.
And coming on to Brexit, which of course is on everyone's thoughts at the moment, how do you think it's going to affect you?
I mean, short term, we've seen a currency gain. Long term, it's a difficult one to work out because we're always subject to macroeconomic and political issues. I remember when we listed back in 2013, North Korea was about to launch a war. It looks like it's going to do it again. Brexit was something that was not even thought about at the time. I mean, there are certain things that we need to be doing. We need to be thinking more strategically about how we deal with Europe. And to that end, we are looking to open an office in Germany. But the chances are we would have done that anyway. Really, a lot of it's down to the fact how our European partners view UK companies going forward. And that's something I really can't judge. We regularly get customers coming in here from Europe and they don't really tend to mention the word Brexit. They're more interested in making sure that they've got their next generation product. Those companies would buy off European companies or buy off Japanese, Chinese companies or American companies. So I'm hoping that that's how it's going to be viewed going forward.
So trade tariffs aren't really a big issue for you?
They could be an issue, and I said one of the ways of mitigating that would be to have the reselling office in Germany. But the beauty I think you have with smaller companies is that they can respond quite quickly. We will make the appropriate changes as when we think they're right to do. Making a decision now would be way too premature, and I think that's what we're trying to create in this organisation. Something's a bit more agile, but it'll stay agile when we get bigger and keep all those sort of fleet of foot that we've been renowned for.
So when you did your placing last year, quite a number of new big shareholders came onto your register.
Yes, they did.
Who are the major shareholders now?
So, the major ones are the companies that people like Hargreave Hale, but more recently these new guys like Schroders, Lion Trust, BlackRock, and we know that when we did the placing that the offer was well oversubscribed, and I think a lot of the companies scaled back below their minimums, but it's good to have those kind of people on board because they will fund the future growth of the company. Not just for me, but for my successor and beyond. We also took the opportunity when we did the placing to do the offer, because actually we do have a rigorous and passionate retail tail, and I think it was a good opportunity for us to recognise that and manage that. And again, I think that was 14 times oversubscribed. So the retail is very important to us because it's retail that actually drives our liquidity. Our large institutions don't tend to shift their shares at all.
And management shareholding.
Yes.
Tony and yourselves are relatively, well, Tony is certainly a very
Yes.
significant shareholder. What is the company director's shareholding or the company shareholding? Because you mentioned everyone's a shareholder.
Yeah.
So what's the percentage holding by the company?
You know what? That is not a number I have. I know what my directors own in shares because we have to put that in the register. But as directors of Anthony Best Dynamics Limited, they don't have to declare their shareholding. What I can tell you is that the major directors are shareholders of the company. I myself as a shareholder, as is Rob Hart as a PLC holder, and Tony obviously holds 24%. Plus his wife, which brings it up to about 32%. But he has actually sold out quite a lot over the last 2 to 3 years. My own shareholding is over 2%, and I hold it strategically. I think you're probably going to come on to the fact that recently my wife sold some shares. And you know what? I expect my managers to sell their shares because they are just as much part of this business in growing this business. And some of these people use the money to put their children through school, to buy houses, to pay off mortgages. They certainly don't use the money to go and buy other shares in other companies. It's the way that it should work. So I would, expect that from time to time managers and directors will sell shares. And
Tony sold his shares because he was put under pressure to, rather than through choice.
There's always a demand for stock, especially from institutions, and in each liquidity event that we've been involved with, he's been the one who's had to sell down. It's also been the widow of the partner, Anne Middleton. She has sold some down, but I think she's where she wants to be. But as Tony said to me, what else can he invest in that would make so much money?
Tim, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Tamzin.